jawbreaker. I shoved that in so that you'd realise, yes indeed, I did once teach English at Trinity College. But I can explain it in a much more accessible, perhaps even vulgar way, because I'm a man of very vulgar habits. I watch enormous amounts of television, but you need not worry about my moral welfare. I concentrate on the advertisements because I find them infinitely more civilized than other programming. And one of my favourites is one that was advertising biscuits about 15 years ago. James biscuits. And in this, a Spill-style character used to oil his way onto the screen with his hair well brill-creamed down, look out into television land and say, got any biscuits? Jacob's biscuits, digestive biscuits, suggestive digestive. Now me. That is the history of the English narrative in the novel in the 19th century, better than I can possibly express it. Whether not all that, Wilkie Collins, Dickens, get the handkerchief ready, I don't look like the look of little Nell at all, something could happen. Jane Austen, Ian Foote, whole bloody lot. But Joyce destroys this instantly and drops us instead right into the living texture of the brain and consciousness of his young artist hero, Stephen Dennis. And this has consequences. Everything is seen from this point of view. We get external experiences merely as they affect the central group. Even Parnell, for example, that great Christmas dinner scene, is seen as the reverberations hit the family Christmas dinner. Now, I call this the seismographic method of narration for the following reason. Dublin is not normally considered to be in a major earthquake belt. And it was therefore with some disquiet that I experienced the events of some 16 or 17 years ago. There I was, lying in the scratcher in North Great George's Street, with my hands firmly above the quilt because it was Lent. The earth moved beneath me, and since I was unaccompanied in the scratcher and it was not the second Sunday of the month, I thought to myself, what on earth is this? It must be an earthquake. I lifted the telephone, phoned the neighbour and said, "What-o? I believe there's been an earthquake." To which he replied sensibly in the circumstances, "Pissed again, black coffee," and took down the phone. Unturned, I switched on the radio to hear about this curious event. Not a whisper. Went downstairs, decided to try the electric television. In those days, RT television did not broadcast during the day, so I was reliant on our northern brothers and Ulster Television, or BBC Noornag. And you know the expression, they wouldn't give you the daylight. They were making damn sure we had no weather that day. There was one little town that actually made it as far as Muir. And I could hear the stentorious voice of the Reverend Ian Paisley in the background saying, "They're not going to get any of your nice, clean, Presbyterian weather. Down there is our nasty little paper straw." So I made myself a cup of tea and went back to the old bed, and at 9 o'clock switched on the radio again, and there it was. The announcer said, "There was an earthquake this morning at 3 minutes to 8 o'clock. This incident occurred halfway between the ports of Dublin and Liverpool. We regret, however, that on this occasion we are unable to bring you any information as to the precise point on the Richter or Cali scales where this event occurred, because the seismograph at Farnham Castle had been sent away from the beginning to retrieve." We wait 100 be bought to the quarry. My favourite was all rather like Where Were You When They Shot Kennedy. My favourite was Mrs. Cassidy of Avondale Head, who was asked, "Do Mrs. Cassidy remember where do you remember? Will I ever forget? There I was in the bed, wondered would I steer me sat get up and make sat the old bed, John does love a bit of no right out on the floor from. I was contemplating these things when suddenly there was a vibrating wind and a sound that was a rushing and mighty gale, and Our Lady lures on top of the wall reverberation of the earthquake. And this indirect method that looks forward to Ulysses hits everything. The book was originally called Stephen Hero, and Joyce's alter ego was massively endorsed and was a real hero. But when he came to publish it, everything was seen now through a lens of irony, with one exception. The moment when Stephen turns his back on the church, declines the offer of a vocation to the Roman Catholic priesthood, instead becoming an artist, the priest of the eternal imagination. Now, once again, we're not told this process, but we feel it in the music of the prose. First of all, there's the long, sonorous vows of the old Belvedere priest, and then suddenly there's a syncopated resonance as a jazz melody hits the air and a group of young men pass by. You realize at that point, Stephen will not become a priest. He held open the heavy hall door and gave his hand as if already to a companion in the spiritual life. Stephen passed out onto the wide platform above the steps and was conscious of the caress of mild evening air. Sitting next to church, a quartet of young men were striding along with linked arms, swaying their heads and keeping in time to the agile melody of the leader's concertina. Music passed in an instant, as the first bars of sudden music always did, over the fantastic fabrics of his mind, dissolving them painlessly and noiselessly as a wave dissolves the sand-built turrets of children. Smiling at the trivial air, he raised his eyes to the priest's face, and seeing in it only a sunken detachment of the dull day, detached his hand slowly, which acquiesced faintly in that companionship. And Joyce, very characteristically, just in case you've missed that little hint, puts in a subsequent figure 6 pages later. This time we're out at Dolimar. That great wooden causeway bridge was still there. Stephen waiting to hear what his fate will be regarding the university. And the bridge starts to shake under the trod of heavily shod boots, and it is a squad of Christian rollers. Well, the difference is a quartet of young men were striding along, and a squad of Christian rollers. Always reminded me of my late uncle, who was a divinity student in Trinity before the First World War, and a great friend who was brilliant at academic theology, but useless at the pastoral realities of being a priest, especially so. So my uncle and somebody else got hold of it and said, "Look, Bertie, it's quite simple. Here it is. You select one of the parables of Jesus Christ from the New Testament. You retell it in your own words, carefully illuminating the moral from your listeners, and then you say, and then Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Amen, that's it. Simple." So off they hoofed to Holy Trinity Church at mine the next Sunday to hear Bertie strut his stuff, and at first everything went well. He announced his text, which was the virgins and the cruises of oil. And he retold in his own words, drew out the moral, and leaned out across the marble parapet of the pulpit and addressed his congregation with a flight of rhetorical questions, saying, "And I ask you, my dear brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, with which would you prefer to be this night? With the wise virgins in the light, or with the foolish virgins in the dark?"